Now, across Texas, the issue is.
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
And I'm Greg Grugan in Houston, and this is Texas, the issue is.
To special session number 2 we go. Democrats basically blocked the congressional redistricting map in the House. It passed the Senate, but didn't do anything. I spoke to senior state senator Royce West from Dallas County about what happens next.
What's different is that America is aware of it, and it's not just a story that's going to go away. And we're just in round 2. This is a 12-round.
You mentioned round 2 of a 12-round fight.
That's right.
We're about to have special session 2. What changes?
Just like when Donald Trump called Georgia and asked, can you find 11,000 votes? He called Abbott and told Abbott that he needed 5 new Republican congressional seats, all right? So it's us against Trump. And so they will win this particular round because they have the numbers here in Texas. But they will lose the ultimate fight because we do have allies in other states that are now aware of this and have basically said that if Texas decides to move forward with it, which they will, then they're going to move forward with it. So,
is that a good solution? I mean, just because Texas is doing it, we're going to do it back?
Absolutely. I mean, again, you've got to understand this. This isn't a fight that we went looking for, all right? This is a fight that Donald Trump has started, okay? And there's no way in the world that you can allow Donald Trump to do rigged districting and not respond to it. So you got to respond to it. And that's what's happening.
I appreciate your honesty that, I mean, at some point the map is going to pass in Texas.
Sure, it's going to pass.
So is the response from Democrats turn out in the midterm election? Because that's the only way to...
What you're seeing is a lot of the old Democrats that no longer feel that camaraderie, if you will, with this new Republican Party will also be voting against some of the people in the state of Texas because they're doing the bidding of Donald Trump. Now, let me say this to you. Democrats can't be to the far left on a lot of these issues anymore either because they won't vote for Democrats either. They may very well stay at home as a result of that. But as it relates to the issue that we're talking about, you've got a lot of Republicans that don't particularly care for what's been set off by Donald Trump and enabled by Governor Abbott in terms of this redistricting.
How do you see the midterms playing out in Texas?
Well, Trump will not get control, will not maintain control of the House of Representatives, okay? People are starting to wake up in the state of Texas, recognizing that in order to have change, you've got to get out and vote, okay? And we'll see what happens. I'm feeling more energized based on conversations I'm having with people around the state of Texas that we're going to have a better turnout amongst people here in the state of Texas.
All right, my word for that is theater, like political theater. Rudy Koski, what's your word?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I was going to go with the senator's boxing theme and say sucker punch, but instead I decided to use baggage.
All right, Greg Grugan, what about you?
Hey, Stephen, all due respect to Senator West, I was tempted to use the H word, but decided to go with sanctimonious.
All right, the Fox X Trail will be right back after this break. The Fox Texas Trio is back. Rudy Koski, who is your special session 1 winner and loser?
Well, the loser, the taxpayer. These walkouts certainly cost money, just like the special sessions cost money. And eventually, the Democrats, I think, are going to chalk up another big L in the win-loss column after all is said and done. Senator West may like to think that this is a 12-round fight, but Democrats will be lucky if this redistricting turf war goes beyond 3 rounds, actually. In the end, as you mentioned, the map will most likely pass. And like with other redistricting battles that have happened here in Texas, I'm expecting Democrats and their support groups will file a federal court challenge. They'll get a favorable ruling from a San Antonio or an Austin judge, only to have that ruling overturned on appeal. Now, because let's remember, this new map actually creates more Hispanic districts. Now, here's the gut punch for Democrats. If a block of Hispanic voters in those new districts continue to vote for conservative candidates, well, that's going to mean a loss of blue political territory for them, Stephen. So, I still like that sucker punch, but I'm going to stick with my baggage, and I'll explain that in a moment.
All right, Greg Gergen, who is your winner and loser for Special Session 1?
Stephen, I don't think anybody won a damn thing. As for losers, I can think of 30 million, as in the entire population of Texas. Look, as I've said, this whole Republican mid-decade redistricting move is wrong-headed and a major gamble, particularly if the economy goes south. That said, the sanctimony and outrage of Democrats is beyond rich, given the absolutely shameless gerrymandering they've engineered in nearly all bright blue states. A few examples: Massachusetts, Maine, New Mexico, and Connecticut, all states with between 36 and 46% Republican electorates, and all states without a single congressional GOP member in the House to represent them. That's not even mentioning the congressional power grabs in California, Illinois, and New York. Fellows, this is no doubt an ugly play in Texas, but it's hardly without precedent. Democrats know that, and yet persist in waving the bloody flag of unfairness and discrimination. Their base can buy into that hypocrisy, but I don't.
All right, guys. Now, Senator West, and I said it in that piece, I give him credit because every Democrat has not said, look, this map is going to pass. I think everyone who knows politics knows this map is going to pass. Now, will it be challenged? That's a whole nother story. Rudy, with the map possibly eventually passing, will Democrats get the last laugh in the election? Doesn't this outrage give them energy to show up at the polls in 2026?
No, I don't think it lives past the summer. Or the first kickoff in college football. The pundits, are going to spin this and maybe say, yes, the Democrats are going to get some cred at the ballot box. But the analysis from November, this past November, clearly shows Senator West is correct on a very big point. Democrats have a ballot box messaging problem, a big problem. Past history has shown it will factor, I think, more into the 26 election than this party turf war. The political flies in the ointment include advocating sex changes for children, shaming women for not wanting biological males to compete in girls' sports, shutting down the oil and gas industry to push a green agenda, doubling down on socialism, creating an open border to skew the census count, which, by the way, impacts congressional districts. And speaking of that, as Greg mentioned, Democrats, as they rail against Republicans for redistricting now in Texas, they have been exposed for already doing just that, ironically, in most of the states that they ran to during this quorum break. Now, make no mistakes, West is right. Democrats will certainly continue to claim they are right, and they will continue the fight, but they have a lot of baggage to unpack, and baggage not just from this latest out-of-state fundraising, a lot of position baggage.
Greg, you'll have the last say. Now, the party that holds the White House typically loses in the midterm at least one of the chambers. President Trump said he needs 5 seats. Shows a little need from him. What do you think?
Stephen, call me old school, but the midterms will be won or lost on the economy, not political map drawing hijinks. If folks feel more secure, more hopeful, more prosperous, as the president promised, Republicans will hold power. But if inflation starts eating deeper into household budgets, jobs get harder to find or hold, and small businesses start tanking because of tariffs, Team Trump is in trouble. Never mind that the border is secure, never mind that the president neutralized the Iranian nuclear threat. If the economy is in a funk, it will be reflected heavily in the midterms. You can bet on that. Okay, up next, the plan to protect Texans from the impact of deadly flash floods. Stay with us, the Fox Texas Trio. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The Texas Senate this week unanimously approved a substantial measure aimed at safeguarding citizens in the Hill Country from the kind of flash flooding which claimed scores of lives July 4th. Houston Senator Paul Betancourt authored the fully funded bill and action plan which can't be taken up in the state house until enough eloping Democrats return and provide a quorum. State Senator Paul Betancourt, a major win. Unanimous vote by the Texas Senate for a bill that could save lives.
Oh, absolutely. The flood emergency warning system is really an important part of the response to what happened in the Hill Country on July the 4th. And I'm really proud of it because it takes what is old school technology, sirens, and blends it with what we're getting now for alerts, except the problem we've got with phones is they're overloaded and that people turn them off at night. And more importantly, about 30% of Texans have learned to silence these alarms. So if you're out in a river basin and you hear a siren, and it will have also an auditory component that says, move to higher ground, flash flood emergency, I think it's going to save lives. It clearly could have saved lives in the upper Guadalupe River on that day.
So it's a hybrid system. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, you always want to just add more things to getting people's attention on an emergency. Look, we've got flash flood alerts, and all these alerts come through on the phone. But what we need is a fail-safe that is old school, that if you're within 3 miles or so, you can hear a siren and it tells you that you need to move to higher ground. Now, what happened in the hearings in Kerrville was really important because there was an anti-river warning system bias in Kerrville County. The Upper Guadalupe River Authority had it from an engineering study, and the county had it. So after they explained that the wall of water came down the river at 17 miles an hour and that it had 7 miles to go before the first big set of camps, but they were unsure if a warning system could help them. And I stopped at everybody and said, simple Aggie math is they would have had 24 minutes to get everybody to higher ground. 24 minutes to get them to higher ground. And do you want to change your comments? And the president of the River Authority switched, then the safety management coordinator switched, then the sheriff switched, and then the county judge said, yes, it would have saved lives. Direct quote. So there's no question that a functioning flood emergency warning system would have saved lives, and I think it would have saved a lot of lives.
Is there money for this?
Yes. Money has already been allocated through a bill by Senator Huffman. She is funding both the river siren legislation that I have, and Chairman Perry has an overall emergency management plan, because some of the things that should be obvious, the camp should have these, they should have evacuation plans. They should be telling anybody that's there how to get to higher ground. You should have egress, ingress in buildings to get to the rooftop so you can be rescued. We had quite a debate about all of this, and these three bills, Senate Bill 1, 2, and 3, priorities of Lieutenant Governor Patrick, package all this together, and we can get that system up and running within a year in the Hill Country. The state's paying for it. The governor, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, they all said, no more excuses, state pays for it.
Let's talk about the politics. Clearly, there will not be a quorum in the House as this first special session comes to a conclusion. There's been lots of rhetoric from the Democrats about misguided priorities. Well, you just passed a bill ready for passage in the House, and they're not there to push it all the way to the governor's desk.
Well, it's pretty egregious at this point, because everybody gets to make a point in politics, and then you got to come back to actually governing for the people of Texas.
There you have it, fellas. By denying passage of the Republican redistricting bill, House Democrats, with their blue state deployment, have at the very least postponed approval of a truly nonpartisan priority. That is, warning systems for vulnerable Hill Country residents. Stephen, while the finger pointing will no doubt reach fever pitch, there's plenty of hypocrisy here to go around, as in placing partisan politics above public safety. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Democrats can blame Republicans. Republicans can blame Democrats. At the end of the day, this is going to pass. At the end of the day, a siren is not going to be installed next week if it were to pass this session. Even in the bill language, they're giving until, I believe, next spring for some of these things to actually be in place, to be enforced. Yes, Democrats are and should show up to pass these bipartisan bills. It's not going to happen in the first session. Well, it didn't happen in the first session. Will it happen in the second? We'll have to wait and see. The finger pointing is, as I mentioned earlier in the show, political theater. We get it from both sides. But in the end, this will be one of the most bipartisan pieces of legislation in the legislature in 2025.
Okay, Rudy, can't wait to hear your take. I mean, Democrats accused Abbott of prioritizing a political power play over public safety, and then they leave the state, preventing adoption of the very progress they claim is the legislature's #1 imperative.
Yeah, and the first hearings were all about flood response, if you remember, in this special session. You know, there's a lot of double standards underneath the Capitol Dome, and what a shocker, politics in play. Lord, protect us. You know, the Democrat walkout, just like the one in 2021, has become somewhat of a fundraising operation. That's simply what it is. Probably always was, right? And it has also has the looks like, tossing a big bowl of political spaghetti up against the wall. See what sticks, whatever accusation you want to make. You know, I think the smart play should have been to stay in Austin, debate the map, stage daily events at the Capitol complaining about the map, but take up flood response, take that high ground, political high ground, and crunch out also a resolution to this tough hemp regulation legislation. That is a big debate that has to happen. And as we mentioned, finger pointing. You know, what's that old saying? When you point one finger, there are three more pointing right back at you. Greg?
All right, Stephen, in terms of practicality, Betancourt seems convinced these new warning systems can substantially reduce the number of flood casualties. What do you think? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I listened to that conversation on the floor. I don't even want to call it a debate because the few Democrat members that were there, 2 senators, when this passed the Senate this past week, were all constructive. Everyone agrees that it takes multiple things. It's not going to just be the sirens. It's not going to just be the new policies in place. It's going to be a combination of things that will eventually, save lives in the future. And so once all of these things get put in place, I think we could see not the stories that we were covering all July with the loss of life.
All right, Rudy, you've spent decades reporting in the Hill Country, so I trust your assessment. Can the hybrid system offered by the Senate lower future body counts?
It will certainly help, but it won't work if people are asleep at the switch. Equipment gets damaged in catastrophic events. I've seen that here in Central Texas. And you can't expect the machine to always work when it has to work. You have to have that human input. Many things went wrong last month, and with any response, leaders have to lead. Not sure that that's what happened in Kerrville. This includes pre-planning. Look, right now, a tropical disturbance is spinning, tracking towards South Texas. And I saw reports early in the week that city managers along the coast already started pre-planning for possible flooding that's going to happen along the coastal area. Pre-planning and accountability requirements have to be key parts in any flood response package. So, that's where we're at right now. And it's going to be interesting to see how things get rebooted in special session number 2. Now, we have a few other issues to deal with, believe it or not. The Texas Trio will take them on after this break. All right, this is part of the show where we pitch out a few other issues, some serious, some quirky, and I think this one's going to be all quirky. My issue is a double issue. High anxiety, what's going on with the Astros right now. They had this huge slump. They looked terrible. Injury bug killed them. Now they're bouncing back. It's late in the season. What's going to happen coming into this final run? Come on, guys, you're giving me a heart attack. And then the other end, my football anxiety. I just watched Shedeur Sanders light things up for the Cleveland Browns. Jerry Jones, did you notice that? Jerry, knock, knock, knock. Man, what a missed opportunity. As a long-suffering Cowboys fan, this is just killing me. Shedeur should be in Dallas. I'm just saying, should be in Dallas. And Astros, come on, Stros.
Hey.
Greg, Stephen?
I kind of like the Shedeur thing. I kind of like the Shedeur thing in Dallas. Not a Cowboys fan. But my issue, my Braves continue to suck, but they beat the Mets multiple games, so I'll take that. But my issue is, heading into college football season, I'm always super nervous. I'm the biggest person who says Georgia's going to lose 5 games. Hopefully they don't lose 5 games, but the only games I truly care about, beating Bama between the hedges, beating Texas between the hedges. If they do that, I'll be okay. Greg Grugan, what's your issue?
I'm going to continue the theme because the all-seeing, all-knowing ESPN computer has picked the University of Texas Longhorns to win the vaunted SEC, with Stevens' Georgia Bulldogs coming in second. Tough news, Rudy. Your Ole Miss Rebs picked in the middle of the pack, a respectable 8-4.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, the fighting Texas Aggies moving up in the world, picked in the top 4, which sets up a high-stakes, soul-crushing defeat Thanksgiving weekend in Austin. Lord, make it so. Lord, make it so.
Boy, the SEC is just going to be a barn burner this year, just a total barn burner. These last man surviving, who's going to survive this stuff?
All right, that's all the time we have. You can see the interview or any of our past interviews by going to our YouTube pages.
And keep the conversation going by interacting with us on social media.
All right, special session number 2 is about to get underway. A lot of issues rebooting. The question is, will the Democrats stay at home? We'll take it all up. We'll take a look at it. A lot of issues. And don't forget to let us know what you think the issue is.